myself and the people he came with. I'm going to go get him some water, and I'll be right back.
Please.
Doing some water.
My name is Mike Darlin. First off, this is my wife, it's Rebecca. It's my youngest son. I've been in the system since I was 11 years old. That's how early it was when I first got busted. And there's really only been, I think, like a 2.5-year gap from the time I was 11 till I am now, and I'm 48 now. But I was never on paper. And it was my very first time in the feds. I finished my parole, and I only stayed out of the system for like 2 years, and I reoffended. I've been doing this a long time. I've been through almost every prison there is, as far as USP or medium or an FCI, or even been to a camp in my early days. I spent a lot of time in county jails, and as a kid, I was locked up in juvenile detention for a long time. And so, as far as my views on the system, I would be the first to tell everybody that our system is really soft. Our system is really weak. And I'm a good example of that. Because I don't know how many times I got a slap on the wrist when I shouldn't have got a slap on the wrist, especially when I was younger. Whether it's because my parents got me a good attorney, or I got a good attorney, or the judge just, for whatever reason, found some sympathy in my case or whatnot. When I used to speak in prison, like at USB Leavenworth, I used to talk at the reentry program, and I used to teach parenting class. And when you're talking to a room full of guys like that, like me, my views on the system used to kind of blow them away. Because you talk to 90% of guys, and they're going to tell you, our system's unfair, they give us too much time, they do this, they do that. But you know, if you look at other countries, their systems are a lot heavier. And if we had that here, I really think our crime rate in our prisons would not be so as full as they are today. Now, take my crime. Mine was bank robbery. My crime in a lot of countries is life in prison, period. That's it. You don't have a 1, 2, or 3 strike. That's just what it is. Now, if we had that same system here, maybe I would have thought twice before I did a lot of things I did in my life. Or maybe I would have just said, you know, the hell with it, and so be it. I'd be in prison for life right now. But our system it's got a lot of loopholes. And a lot of the reason I really continued the life I was leading is just simply because I knew the system. And I knew one day that I would get a big number. I knew that day was coming. And it did this last time. I had 12.5 years. You know, and up till that, it was just, you know, a little 5 years here, a little year here. And I know that seems odd when I say little sentences, but when you've been in the system as long as I have, you know, my very first sentence, you know, was a 5-year sentence. And I was just, it didn't affect me because I was in my 20s, I had no family, I had nothing. And so it just, to me, it was like a vacation, and that's how I looked at it. I learned nothing from my first time in, nothing. And this last bit I did, it really wasn't until I was about 5 years to the door when it just hit me one day. And I don't remember the date, but I remember the day because I was sitting in my cell, and I know it was a weekend. And it just, everything made sense to me as far as my family, everything I've always left behind. You know, it was easy for me to sit there and say, I love my kids, I love my wife, always made sure they had this, made sure they had that. But that means nothing when you're locked up. And I remember talking to others in the parenting class. My first thing I used to tell them, I said, the first thing you need to do is admit that your lifestyle is more important than your family. And there's not a one in there that would say, man, you're right. They all argued it. Because they would all come back with the response of, well, no, I always made sure the wife had money, the kids had this, but they don't have you. And my oldest kids, because I have a daughter that's 28, and it goes all the way down to 2.5. I have 6 kids. Yeah. And I missed a lot of my older kids part of their life because I was locked up. I was incarcerated. But even when I was home, I wasn't there. I was out running wild. I hung around the wrong people, obviously making all the wrong choices, but That's a lifestyle I knew. It's what I was raised in. And so I used to tell everybody, I said, once you can admit to yourself that your lifestyle is more important than your family, that's where it all starts coming together. I'm not saying they didn't love their kids, they didn't love their wife, but obviously they weren't the most important thing, because here we are sitting at Leavenworth listening to me talk. And that's just the cold hard truth about it. And so, since I've been home, you know, I didn't have a lot of the struggles that a lot of my friends are having coming out, because a lot of my other friends inside have never worked. They've never had a job. All they know is either drugs, robbing banks, car theft, whatever. All they know is the hustle. None of them never worked a job until they got to prison. And so when they get back, when they hit the streets, it can be tough for them. And I'm real honest when I talk to these guys. Okay, you know, I had my skills of what I knew before I went in. You know, some people sometimes smirk at it, and sometimes I make a joke about it. I said, but even when I was doing my crimes, I always worked. It's just because there was other things behind what I did. And so I have a good friend. When he came home, he's done about 30 years. You know, he's never had a job, ever. And I met him for lunch one day, and the first words out of his mouth is what he thought he wanted to do. He started telling me, you know, I met these people, you know, this is an easy come up, it's this, it's that, you know, and I let him talk. But then I told him, I said, you know, you just got your daughter back in your life. And you know, his daughter's 22 now. And he hadn't seen her since I think she was like 6. Now, they had broke and he'd stayed in her life all those years he was locked up. But I told him, I said, you have your daughter back. I said, it's gotta be something. And I said, where are you working now? I said, it's just a stepping stone. And so, it was kind of iffy. I kept trying to bring him over to the house. I have a couple friends. I try to keep him in my circle because they see how I'm living. And that they start seeing that and they know that it's possible. Okay, you may not come out making the money I did, but nonetheless, there's opportunity. And he made it. I was really worried about it, but he made it. He finally got his big job he wanted, which is a Coors, but he's never made money like that in his life. He's never had benefits. He's never had to be responsible for nothing. And so, understand, for guys like me with my past, you know, it's like a 97% fail rate. There's only like 3% of us that actually make it. And, you know, I know a lot of speakers in a lot of different areas, you know, they've done maybe a couple years in camp or whatnot, but for guys that have had my past in my life, it's a rare thing, because everyone reoffends. I've already had a lot of buddies go back in. You know, they get out, they do good for a minute, but then it starts calling them, whether it's the drugs or just the money. Because money is the base behind everybody that's inside. I don't care what even if they were just an addict. What drove that addict was the need to get the money to buy the drug. And see, that's what I was poisoned by for a long time, was money. I was just obsessed with it. There just was never enough. I mean, I would go out and I would rob 1 or 2 banks. You know, and it would be whatever the amount it was, but I'm already thirsty for the next one, because it's just, man, it's a demon. It can be poisonous. And you know, where my life is now, it's just, money is what it is. You know, we have our good months and bad months like anybody else. You know, and like I always tell the wife, I said, money's gonna come and go. I said, but the bills are paid, you got food on the table, what else is there? I said, if I'm gonna be broke, I'm gonna be broke sitting at home with my family, because at least I'm home. You know, it's easy to go out and you think you're gonna make that one last deal or that one last hit. If you talk to anybody inside, that's what they're telling you, man, this was my last one. I was on my last, and it's always their last one, and it wouldn't have been. Because they would have done that, and they would have thought, well, man, I pulled this off. One more, there's never a last one, there's just not. And a good support group, that helps. The biggest drive behind mine is my wife. She did every day with me when I was locked up. And that's tough for anybody, especially a woman. But you figure she had a choice. She could have just walked in. I'm not doing this. I didn't have a choice. I had to do the time. I didn't have a choice. I had to do it. She had a choice. She chose to take it with me. You know? And that's really rare. I know a lot of family members, not just women, but even men whose wives are locked up or whatnot, or even parents. After a couple of years, they're just kind of burned out on it. And who wouldn't be? You know what I mean? I would be burned out on it. And so, without her, I wouldn't be where I am today. And the other force is my PO, Shelly. And it's odd for, you're not going to find many guys that speak highly of their PO, but she's been righteous since day one. You know, and because there's, like in any profession, you have great POs, you got bad ones. In my work, you have good employees, you got bad ones. You have good cops, you have bad cops. You have ones that are going to go at you different. She never came at me basically what she was taught in the book, or what they said, well, here's how you have to talk, here's how you answer this question, here's what you have to have them do. She's always talked to me real straight. And my first couple years home was rough. And I used to call her and I'd say, man, I need a vent session. That's what I used to tell her. Because I would have my days where, not that I wanted to go do crime, that has never crossed my mind once since I've been home, but it was dealing with people. It was all my life I was used to dealing with people on a different level. Just as much as something as simple as someone talking to me wrong or looking at me wrong or even bumping into me. You know, my first reaction is to school them and just, hey, man, because it's all about respect. But respect can get really twisted, especially when you're raised inside. Because how it is in there and how it is out, it's two different worlds. And you just got to find that balance. You know, I remember one of my first trips to Walmart with my wife, I must have said excuse me to like 10 different people walking through Walmart. And I remember she leaned over to me and said, well, you're going to stop doing that real quick. And I said, why is that? And she says, because nobody cares no more. And you know, and I said, but I do. I said, I'm always going to say excuse me. I'm always going to get the door. You know, I've met the ones that come down an aisle somewhere and you can tell right away, they're not going to move for you. Okay, I can put on the overall and just stop and hold my space and knock them out of the way, but where does that get me? It doesn't get me nowhere. So I'm always going to be the one to move. You know, I have my days where I might be a little moody and I might mumble something, you know, like, excuse me, in probably a sarcastic manner, you know, but you just got to know where to turn it off and when to turn it on. So, that's about a quick review on me. When I came home, I did temp service. I was making $8.43 an hour. That's what I made. I worked through a temp service. I got sent on a ticket, which is a job. And two gentlemen that helped me out there, they gave me the max hours they could as far as what they were allowed to do. And they looked out for me. They had a big part of where I am today. Because I know everybody's name that's helped me along this way. And I'm always trying to give back to each and every one of them when I can, because I don't forget who helped me out. Because the support group is the biggest. Because a lot of these guys coming out, they don't have family, they don't have nothing. I'm not making an excuse for them, because it's not an excuse. Because there's help out there if you choose to go get it. But most come out, they don't have no family, or if they do, the family don't want nothing to do with them no more. And it's easy for them to say, you know, the hell with it. And the next thing you know, they're back on the street doing what they do, and that gets you nowhere. You know, it took me over 40 years to get it right. And what it was that day, I don't know. But it just hit me. Everything made sense to me. You know, in my head I used to be able to not justify what I did, but I really had no remorse. I never cared about the consequence. The day I got sentenced, the time really didn't hit me. I was sad because I knew what I was going to do to my family, but it really didn't hit me. I was just, okay. You know, I know guys that have had to do 30 days and they were in tears. And I get it, because you know it's not for everybody. But when the judge gave my 12 and a half, I guess in my head, I told myself, well, it's better than 15. You know, that's how I broke it down. That's a horrible way to look at that. Because I lost over a decade of my life and over a decade with all my kids. You know, my one daughter was 4, she was 16 when I came home. You know, you can do all you can through letters and phone calls, but it's not the same. So, where I am today, took a lot of jumping to get there. My method doesn't work for everybody. I jumped a lot of jobs because I was always looking for something better. It even made my wife nervous. Shelley made a comment once saying, you jump a lot. I wasn't jumping because I hated where I was at. I knew there was other opportunities. And I've been out of the game so long, there was a lot that had changed for what I do. What I do is I'm a heavy equipment mechanic. And the machines I used to work on are a lot different than what they are today. So I was trying to get all the knowledge I could. And someone like me, it paid off. With Martin Marietta with a job and money that I seen I would achieve being home, but I did not see doing it with under 4 years. I really thought it was going to take 10 years. That's what the wife thought. We gave ourselves 10 years for me to get back on my feet. Do I call it luck? I don't. Because I went out and I just kept fighting for it. And when they first called me back, I avoided it for 2 weeks because I said, I remember one night I told my wife, I said, look, they've emailed me again. I would laugh because it was Martin Marietta. And I said, they're never going to hire a guy like me. But I answered the phone one night to my boss and he said, man, come talk to me. They hired me on the spot. And so that's about it in a nutshell as far as my past and where I was and where I am. So let the questions roll.
I told them you guys would ask a lot of questions. Because you're always asking me a lot of questions.
I mean, I can keep talking. I have hours and hours. But, go ahead.
You don't have to answer this if you're uncomfortable, but while you were in the system, did you ever feel like any of your rights were under violation
No.
or that you were cheated?
No, you got guys in there all the time. I mean, you have guys that will go in there and sue because they don't, or attempt to sue, because they don't get peanut butter and jelly twice a week. I'm just being honest with you. You would be surprised at the frivolous lawsuits these guys try to file in there. And for everything that they've taken away, as far as like when I started until now, because like I said, I've been in the system a long time, it's always because when I say one of us, I was always meaning the guys inside, we mess it up. The reason you lose so much in there is because the way we choose to live in there. You got prisons like camps or little mediums that are, they're pretty laid back, but things still happen there. But when you get up to a USP level, it's just a different way of life, But these guys that would used to sit there and file these lawsuits, and they'd come to you and say, hey, sign this petition, and I used to tell them, I got other ways to do my time than to fight for peanut butter and jelly, or to think my rights are being violated because we'd be locked down a month at a time. And it used to, like I said, it used to blow a lot of my partners away in there. Because a lot of them still have the mindset, man, this is wrong what you're doing. How can you keep us locked up, 30 days at a time without letting us out? Or how can you keep us from doing a shower for 30 days? And I was honest with them. I said, I said, if it was us, I said, what would you do? I said, I promise you, I said, they give me more than I would ever want to give them. Because that was my mindset. I said, so when they do crack these doors every day, I said, you should be thankful. I said, because they don't have to. I said, they can do whatever they want in there. And I mean that, not in a bad sense. It's just, I said, who wants to hear you? I said, the people on the street, I said, look what we've done. Some of what everyone's done is worse than other, but nonetheless, I said, look what we've done. And I said, what rights do we really have coming? I said, they give us 3 hots on the cot. And again, I bring up other prisons. Look at the Mexican prisons. You want to talk about a hardcore prison? Wow. They make ours look like a country club. Because if you don't have family or money, you're not going to eat. And there's going to be a group of guys in there that own you. And that is a bad place to be. So no, my rights, no. I remember in county, a bunch of us got wild one day because we were being held in county waiting to be sent up to the prisons. And it was just, it was a suck of jail. All jails suck. But, you talk to guys, they'll say, oh, no, I've been there. That's pretty nice there. They let you do this. They let you do that. Where were we at? Yeah, it was small. It was overcrowded, They tried to feed us all something for breakfast, and we all just kind of said, you know, we've had enough. So everybody bucked. But I ended up getting tased, you know, and I knew it was coming, you know, and I remember because we called him One Eye, because me and him never really seen, there's no pun here, eye to eye on stuff, but when he came through the door, I knew he was coming for me, so immediately I stopped, and I started backing into my cell, and I'm in the cell. Now, realistically, yeah, he should have just shut the door. I'm where he wanted me to be. But that was his way of getting back to me for all the shitty things I said to him. And he did. I'm sitting there looking at him, and I knew it was coming, and he did. And it's a jolt. But it's, do I think he was out of line? No. Because look at how I was treating him. One, look at me and look at my size. You know, and I know how a lot of the cops used to take that. But on the flip side, especially in Leavenworth, you know, it's the oldest joint, and the Fed is still running. You know, it's overcrowded, but there's a lot of good staff there. And that was a lot of the reason, and a lot of the part of why I made the change I did. You know, when I got there, I went to work in the officers' mess hall, somewhere where I never thought I'd work in prison. You know, but I was like, man, I'll try it. I had a real cool boss. Her name was Miss M. She looked out for me. The staff was real good. I got to know all the wardens, you know, because I'm feeding them every day. I'm cooking for them every day. So I'm getting to know them all pretty well. You know, granted, they're not my friends, but, you know, they were always respectful to me, and I got a whole new outlook on them. Because how they were in there was not how they were, you know, out on the range or out on the yard. That was their place to, you know, unwind. But they always treated me with respect. And then again, you had some staff that, you're a greaseball, you're a convict, you're a criminal, but I'm also okay with that too. That doesn't bother me. I don't get offended if someone chooses not to like me because of what I've done. I'll be the first one to respect it and say, okay, I'm cool with that. Like with jobs, I'm always real honest with my jobs, you know, and even Beck and Shelley asked me once, maybe sometimes you think I'm too honest, you know, and I said, no. It's not like when I meet someone within the first 5 minutes, I tell them who I am. But you know, when you first meet somebody, you pretty much know if you're gonna get a relationship with that person. You can get that feel. So I'm really quick to tell people what my story is. The reason is, I said, one, whether it's a man or a woman, I said, what if they have, whether it's a child, a brother, a sister, a mom, an aunt, someone that was in a bank robbery. And it could have rattled that person like no other. So they could look at me and think, man, you know, my mom or my sister went through that. And I just don't want no surprises when somebody really gets to know me. When we went to look at our house, the old man we got the house from, I didn't have to tell him one thing. He didn't have to know about my parole, my past, who I used to run with, nothing. He would have never known, but I told him anyway. When he got done with the showing, I told him, and I remember Beck was even like, do you think we should have told him all that? And I said, yes. I said, because now he knows. You know, he took a day, and he was honest with me. He said, this is new territory for me. He made the comment to me, he says, you know, he said, I was raised in Vanillaville. He said, people on Colfax and what I see on TV, he said, I'm never around people like that. And I respected that, because I know where he grew up at. Because the home we got was his childhood home, you know? And so we gave him a day, and he shows up at my wife's work one night, or the next day. She calls me and says, hey, Dick was just here. You know, some people might find that a little odd, but I didn't, because I know how the old man was. He was just trying to be sure. And you know, he just wanted to ask Beck one more time. He said, your husband is retired, right? And she said, yes, because this was new to him. And now, of course, we're going on 3 years there. Now he's just a good friend. I love the old man. And he does. He likes listening to the stories and things, just like most people. But he's just, my honesty has gotten me everything since I've been home. With every job. Because every resume I've turned in, my criminal history is attached to that. You know, and because one, I have to account for all these missing years. And I always put there, incarcerated, please see attached. And they have everything from when I was a kid till now. Because there's nothing I'm ashamed of. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it. I did what I did. But my honesty has gotten me everything. Every single thing that me and my family have gotten to been home is because I haven't sugarcoated nothing with nobody. I tell them exactly how it is.
looking back, can you see like there are some reasons as to why you know, chose the path you did very young? Or, because I know later on you're like, oh, it's all about the money, you know, but like early on, I don't know if like an 11-year-old would fully understand.
You know? I told my wife that, you know, I look at the things I did when I was 11 years old, and I told her, I said, what kind of kid does this stuff? I stole a car when I was 11. That's what I did, me and a buddy. And when it ran out of gas, we set it on fire. Why? I don't know. But I mean, what 11-year-old kid does that? You know, most 11-year-olds, look at my son, he's 9. You know, he would never have no thought in the world to do any of the things I did. You know, but I believe, and I've told this to a lot of people, I believe you're born with it. You know, I never knew my biological dad. I knew who he was, I know about him, but my mom's reason to keep me away from him was he was a bad guy. He was a criminal, he did a lot of time in prison, and I don't really know a lot of true stories on him, but then I heard that he died in prison, whether that's true or not. But I never met the man. Then you look at my 28-year-old. When me and her mom were together, it's kind of a crazy story. Our families didn't get along. And so when we found out she was pregnant, her family swooped her off to New Mexico. Because it's a long story, but it's like Hatfield and McCoy's. Her family just loathes mine, and that's how it is. I never met Brianna until my first time out, and at that time she was 5. But we didn't tell her that I was her dad, because Alicia was married, and she believed this other guy be her dad, and I was okay with that. But you know, I don't know how she knew, but a couple years later, she'd asked, is that my dad? You know, and that's when we told her. Then I got locked up again. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, is just like me right now. At this current moment, she's on the run. You know, she'll call me periodically. I'll never preach to her. I don't preach to nobody. I'll tell her what she should do. You know, no different than what people told me when I'd be on the run. You know, it'd be easier just turn yourself in and let's get this done. But with her, she's got a sweet tooth for the drugs. See, drugs and alcohol is never in my life. It's just something I've never done. But that's her demon. You know, and so I look at how I took from my biological dad and how she took from me. I just really believe it's something you're born with. Because I was doing things as a kid that, really? You know, I sit here and think about it, and I was messed up. And as far as my family, it's just something they always knew. You know, I remember going through the Scared Straight program in the 80s. I went through it twice. And this is when Scared Straight was Scared Straight. Really, the programs they have now, I think, are pretty weak. Because I went in when they were allowed. If you went in with an attitude or thinking you were cool, these guys would take you and put you up against the wall and they had to do things to you and tell you, man, I'm going to take you in this room and here's what's going to happen. That's what I believe worked. But the way we are in society now, that's not how Scared Straight works, and that's why I don't really think it works anymore. It might affect some people, but the one I went through. But you know, when I went through that, I never went into it with an attitude, nothing. I went into it trying to take what I could from it. And you know, the only thing I seen, and my mom seen it, because the way it used to work, you'd go one week, then the next week your parents would go with you. And she just remembers watching me and looking at me, and it just didn't affect me like that. All I seen was another way of living, another life, because it's different behind the walls. And that's how I look. I didn't look and think, wow, this is where I want to be. It just didn't have an effect on me. And then as I started getting older, you know, I had a couple uncles that didn't do the best things. And then I got introduced to a certain lifestyle, and that was really my turning point. It was with a club, that's all I'll say. But that was my life, and that's all I wanted. I lived it, I breathed it, that's all I wanted. I got entrapped by it. And so, I believe, I mean, a lot of it's choice, but I honestly believe it's just something a lot of us are just born with it. I had that streak in me from an early age, you know, and it just took me a long time just to get it, for everything that makes sense, and sit there and think, what for? And that's what I asked myself today, what for? What good have I done to anybody being in here? Nothing. And it hit me just like that quick. Everybody has a question. Don't be afraid to ask a question. Because there's nothing I'm afraid to talk about. Nothing. And I won't sugarcoat nothing. Go ahead.
You did mention you were going to talk about it, so you kind of took my question away, but you did say club. So, charging for tattoos and your appearance motorcycle club?
Yeah. And you know, if in any other class, I have no problem speaking about it. But we're recording it, and we want to post it. And so there's things I just can't talk about. It's not my life no more, but there's still lines you can't cross. Maybe next time. Go ahead.
Quick throw out the camera.
What was the biggest difference from like federal prison versus just state prison?
You know, everybody always has this belief that federal prison is a country club. Because now there are some camps that are pretty nice, you know, and those are the ones like, you know, the celebrities on TV you see go to these camps. I don't know them off the top of my head, you know, and they think, oh man, they got golf course, they got swimming pools. Okay, it's no different than the state. You know, look at Camp George West. That's a pretty nice place to be as far as if you're going to be locked up. You know, in the feds you get moved around a lot. In the state, you know, you're going to be home. You know, you can be in Canyon City, you might be out in Sterling, you might be down in La Junta, but you're home. When you're in the feds, now I understand you can stay home when you're in the feds. You know, but my first couple years in, I wilded out because I wasn't mad. It's just the politics of prison sometimes leads you to do things you don't want to do. You know, obviously in prison, race is a big thing. It's huge. And then in there, it's where you're from. You know, you could be my homeboy, but it breaks down. You could be from the north side, I could be from the west side. Okay, that really shouldn't matter, but it does in the feds. So there's a lot of racial tension. It is what it is. And so I've been out in Oklahoma. You get shipped a lot. That's what they do. And so, but as far as the conditions, you know, the USPs in the state, they're about the same. You know, it's just at USPs there's more tension. You have guys, a lot of them never going to see daylight, and they have nothing to lose. So it's basically our way or no way. You know, and a prison is a prison. You know, but is the feds a country club? No, it's not. Maybe at the camps. You know, I've never been to a federal camp. You know, I made it to a camp my first time out in the 90s when I got extradited back from the feds here. I was in Delta, Colorado. And all men, I was like, wow, because they gave me a key to my room. It looked like an apartment complex. You know, and there was no fence, and I was like, what can I do? You know, you had certain points you had to stop. But they had a horse arena, they had a river, and I was like, wow. Now, but if you put someone there their first time, what are they going to learn? You know, I used to always believe that everybody should start out in a USP. Everybody. And work your way down. That's not how it works in the feds. And it's really not even how it works in the States. You know, sometimes they go by a point system. They'll go by your crime. But you learn nothing from a camp. So it should work opposite. Now, the ones who start in USP may never make it down. You know, because obviously time is a big factor. You're not going to put someone in a camp that's got 30 years to life. You know, you're not going to do that. But you know, I know guys who ended up in USP just with a 5-year sentence, just because of the violence or the length of their criminal record. But if you start them out easy, what do you learn? You know, prison's not supposed to be easy. I mean, I met a lot of guys in prison that I really believe shouldn't be there. You know, there's a lot of guys in there that got caught up, whether it was with a friend or it was just wrong place, wrong time. You know, and prison was the last place they should have been. Someone like me, did I belong there? Every day of it. Every day, every time I was locked up, that's where I was supposed to be. You know, and I know a lot of people like that. I know a lot of guys doing life, that's probably where they should be. Just because their wires are just crossed. They're never going to be able to figure it out. And they're only going to get out and keep doing bad. And that's just the truth. You know? But when you put somebody in a camp, or even really a medium, you know, they look and think, well, this isn't so bad. You know, but it's not until years later after you've been through this and this and this, now you're up to the USP. And now reality sets in. You know, but by then it's too late. I'm not saying they're institutionalized, but they've been in and out of the system so long they don't know anything else. You know, I always had a choice. I know people from a lot worse background than me, a lot worse. I mean, look at my sister. Both, you know, our parents weren't the best, our childhoods weren't the best. But she did just fine. You know, she went on with her life. My first time in federal court, they were really trying to disrespect my mom, because I remember this very well, because I was really pissed off. And the only thing I was trying to argue was stuff that they put inside it's called a PSI. And I wanted them taken out. It had no effect on my sentencing whatsoever. But it was just derogatory remarks they made about my mom and my sister. And it just really got to me because, you know, again, my mom wasn't the greatest. She wasn't. But I always had a place to live. I always had food. Doesn't matter if she wasn't there. Doesn't matter what she did. I always had a place. It was my choice to go out and do every bad thing that I ever did. And it's easy for people to say, well, man, look at my background I come from. And I'm not saying it's not easy. Especially a lot of guys that are growing up, you know, in areas where gangs are real high. A lot of them feel they're trapped, you know. In some scenarios, I can see that. But there's always a way out. There's always a way out. It's not going to be easy, but there's always another way. It's just, it all depends on what you decide to do, what you choose to do. You might get beat along the way, but so what? It's better than getting beat down doing 20 to life. You know what I mean? Fight your way through it. There's help out there. You just got to reach for it, because no one's going to come to give it to you. You got to go find it.
So, two-part question. What was the hardest part when you first got out, like maybe after your first long stint?
Okay.
Secondly, what would your old self tell? What your new self now would tell your old self then?
As far as the first question is the easiest one. You know, my biggest thing, the hardest thing I had was people. Because even before prison, I hung around a certain group of guys. You know, my lifestyle was like this. You had 1%ers and you have citizens, which would be you, and that's not a bad thing. Okay, and respect is a big thing. And it's a real big thing in my family. It's huge. I preach it to my kids all the time. Not on that level, but respect is huge. Because I tell my son, I said, that's all we have in life. I said, we have respect, our honor, and our word. And it's everything, because I'm quick to judge someone on how they shake my hand. You know, I'm quick to judge when I'm talking to someone if they look at me or not. It could be bad, you know, but it's just how I'm molded. But the second part is, what would I tell my old self? You know, it's tough because when I try to talk to guys who are still in that circle, it's hard to talk to somebody like that. You know, everybody has options, but you just don't see them. You know, if I could go back and tell myself, I'd say, man, listen to what I have to say. That's all I could do, and I'd tell them what I know now. You know, would I go back and change anything? And this is where it gets difficult. If I were to go back and change any part of my life, any little part of my life, I wouldn't have my wife and my family right now. I'm not saying I wouldn't be married, but I wouldn't be married to her. And she met me when I was running wild. And it was what it was, but she accepted that. But to go back and alter anything, you'll lose so much. There's things I wish I could change, but I try not to live like that, you know. As far as, there's one teller in particular, I won't say her name, but she got really rattled by what had happened, because it was a bank, and I hit it twice within 10 days, and she was the same teller. And you know, I never really knew about this lady for a long time until I was in Leavenworth, and I was talking to someone I used to go to high school with, and she said, hey, you know, there's an article about you. And I said, you know, what's it on? What was it about me? It was on her, but from what I had done. And see, when I meet people, hey, I've had bosses, everyone, even this job here, when they find out one, what I did, where I used to run with, everyone's first thing is, wow, that's cool. Because of what Hollywood movies do for it. When you see bank robbers on TV, you know, no one ever leaves a movie theater thinking, man, they're criminals. They don't, they think, man, that was pretty cool. But see, what they don't show you are the victims. And, you know, I'll entertain people with stories and tell them things, but I always end up with this, and I said, this lady got so rattled, it ruined her marriage because she has a big issue with men now. And she went from working at the bank, I don't know how long she'd been at this bank, but now she works at Walmart. And I'm not saying it's bad to work at Walmart, I'm not saying that. But hey man, I've wrecked this lady's life. And there, you know, there's not an amount of sorries or anything I could ever tell her, even if she'd even want to hear them. But I'll always remember what she looks like because I know who she is. And I've always told people, you know, I said, I don't care where I'm at, whether I'm in a store, a bank, anywhere. If I ever walked in and seen her, I'm going to put everything down and turn, I'm going to leave. Because I'm not going to put her through that again. You know? Like, I remember Beck, you know, because she was reading a lot of my paperwork from court and what people were saying. And, okay, it bugged her. Okay, but it was supposed to, you know? It's my wife, it's my girl. But here's what I told her, and here's what I told a lot of my family and a lot of my friends. I said, you know, I said, flip it around. And now, of course, my daughter was only 4 at the time. But I said, what if somebody put a gun in Danielle's face? You know? And I tell all these people, I said, what if it was your sister or your daughter? Because everyone out there is somebody's daughter, brother, sister, mom, dad, something. Now, I know what I would do if someone put a gun in my sister's face, or my wife's face, or my daughter's face. There's not a question what I would do. So, and that's the cold hard reality I give people. And it usually makes everybody quiet because nobody ever thinks of that. All they see is what they see on TV. And they glorify it. They make it look like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. Okay. I never shot nobody, you know, but does that make it better? No, it doesn't. You know, and there are some tellers that they probably walked away from it, you know, really unrattled. They were probably like, well, here we go again. You know, but with her, I jacked this lady's life up, probably forever. And so that's something I got to deal with.
So when you were 11 and you and your friend who did that, what happened to you? Since you
No, nothing. All I can remember is going home. The whole neighborhood knew who did it. Everyone knew. It was Mike and John. Everyone knew. There was no one around. But I remember I ran home, he ran home, and next thing you know, cops are at the door. But nothing happened. Now, I don't know if my parents had to pay anything. I don't know that. But I never went to a court, never went nothing. Nothing. And my parents didn't even whoop my ass for it. They should have, but I remember they didn't. Sure, I remember they were mad. I think maybe I got sent to my room, but that was it. And it's just nothing. And you figure that's 1981, you know, and just where we lived was Westminster, you know, but it wasn't as populated as it is now. But nothing happened. You know, I can remember an incident. I'd stolen a car. I was 15. Didn't have intentions to do it. I was walking home from a girlfriend's house. It was cold. I had hopped in this car. It was a little gas station in our neighborhood that fixed cars. I jumped in just to get warm. When I looked down, the keys were in it. That was it. Fired it up. I was gone. I drove around for like 2 days. I understand I'm 15. I don't know no better. You know, obviously they're looking for it, but I'm thinking, man, I got a car for a couple days. And so I'm at the school. I'm there to pick my girlfriend up. And I'm sitting there with my buddy Larry. He has no idea. I think I told him a story. Yeah, it's my buddy's car. Let me borrow it. I didn't tell him I stole it. And we're sitting there waiting. The bell rang. And this man jumps on the front of the car. It took me by surprise for a second, but immediately I knew. I said, oh, this is the owner of the gas station. So I just hit the gas. And he flew off, and his wife chased me. I got away. Now, even one of my best friends today, he waited all these years to tell me this, but he was one of them that said, oh, it was Mike Darling. Because everybody at school, but they did what they were supposed to do. You know, they were scared, the cops were in your face, and who was that? And, you know, everybody knew who it was. And so, I went to court. Hey, they had me dead to rights. But the prosecutor
was related. He was either a nephew or something to the man at the gas station, and he didn't come clean with it. We didn't find it out. I'm there for court. We're sitting out in the hallway, and our attorney's like, hey, wait a minute. And I remember this guy came out just fighting mad, just pissed off. And they dropped all the charges. Because he didn't disclose that, hey, this is my uncle's gas station. Now, do I think the charges should have been dropped? No. But the way our law system works, okay, if someone doesn't, disclose that information, okay, shame on you. Really, I don't think it should make a difference at all. That's just my opinion. You know, if I happen to steal a car from the wrong person and now his nephew's my prosecutor, damn the luck. That's how I look at it. You know, but that's not how the system works. But they let it go. And I walked out of court that day. And I thought, wow, that was easy. And it just, every time I would get busted, even if it was something simple, traffic tickets, it was just, you know, I'd go in and I never ever really gave a story. I wasn't that guy to get up and say, oh, you know, I didn't try to do tears or sad. I just got up, you know, not cocky, but I had no story for nobody. And they would always just let me go. And I look back now and I just don't get that. You know, I don't know why our system is the way it is. Everybody complains about it. And when people try to make a change to it, to make it tougher, they say, well, no, you know, we're not barbarians, we're not this. But that makes no sense to me. You know, there's always been the argument of, it's always a delicate subject. Take sex offenders. Okay, you know, inside, hey, when they get caught, they get caught. That's what it is. I'm not saying you have good criminals and bad criminals, but there's a code you live in there. And there's some things that just aren't accepted. You know, and a lot of these guys will stay under the radar for a long time, but it always comes out. And then bad things always happen. You know, and I won't lie, I was always that guy. If I knew of one or saw one or found out about one, I was always the first one to tell my boys, man, I'll go do that. You know, because I look at, if someone hurt my kids or my wife in that way, even today, could I walk away from it? I'm not going to. You know, and I've told Shirley, I've told my wife, I've told everybody, nothing's ever going to put me back in prison. Nothing. Unless someone were to hurt my family. If someone were to hurt my little girl or my son, especially in that manner, I guess all I can say is, man, they better catch them first. You know, and it's just, I look at these guys that go in, and they get very little time. Because they always have doctors saying, well, you know, he's sick, we can talk to them. I don't believe that. I don't. You know, I believe there's more rehabilitation for a 16 or 17-year-old kid. Fine, maybe he was in a gang. You know, and now there's 50 guys around and he just happens to pull his out, he shoots somebody, kills someone. Do I think that's a murder for life? I don't. Okay, he's gonna go to prison for a while, but he's just a kid. Do I think he's a serial killer? Do I think he's gonna get back out and start killing again? I don't. Maybe some of them, depending on their record, but I know a lot of guys in their first-time offenders, whether it's for something like that or a drug case, they were just lost and they were confused because they're smart kids. And I think prison is the worst thing because now they're going to be a product of the system. They're probably not going to make it out of there.
Regarding that, do you think, like you said, the criminal justice system isn't bad, but what do you think about mandatory minimums on the drug offenses, do you think they really change how a person is, like, stricter?
No. You know, mandatory minimums, drugs was never my thing.
Yeah, I know that,
But I know a guy, his name
the
was
other
Larry.
side, yeah.
He was from Gillette, Wyoming. He was just like a town drunk, rode 10-speed, lived in a trailer, his mom left him. He was like a bum.
Mm-hmm.
He was a dishwasher there. They had a big indictment go down there in early 2000. He was a nobody. Okay, he bought it a little bit, maybe he wanted to party, whatever, but he was a nobody. And they gave him 10 years because he wouldn't give up names. Because I remember he brought me a letter from his attorney, and he said, man, Mike, read this. And it bound for me as attorney in DC. He said, Larry, everybody's telling you, you will not make it through federal prison. You have no idea how hard federal prison is. Basically begging him, just give him the names. You know, to go into prison as a snitch is a bad thing, you know. And I told him, I said, you know, I said, I can't tell you what to do. I said, I know it doesn't help you now. I said, but if you hold your mud, I said, when you walk out of here, I said, you'll walk with your head high. I said, you know, it's hard to tell someone that when they've never done, you know, he'd done little stints in county jail for being drunk and disorderly, but now he's looking at 10 years on a big, and he's the one at the very bottom. But the ones that give the most sometimes get the most. And he didn't tell. Now, he got sent to the camp in Inglewood. Okay, it still sucks, it's still 10 years, but at least he got sent to a camp. Because do I think he deserved to go to prison? No, I don't. But he got caught up in that indictment.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the sentences they give out, did time change me? You know, I can't say yes or no. It was my last bit that made me see the light. But, you know, I can't say that even in my 20s, if I got a 10-year sentence, if that would have done it. You know, I know some guys doing life plus 30. I don't really understand that. What's the plus 30? You know, is it just because we're really mad at you, so we're giving you life plus 30? I don't really understand that. You know, but do I think it's the answer? No, because I don't know what the answer is. Drugs is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a sickness and it's all over the place. You know, do I think it's going to set someone straight to give him 20 years? Don't know. What's he going to turn into in the 20 years sitting in USP somewhere? You know, I don't know.
So obviously, like, most of us are gonna go be criminal justice professionals. Based on your experience, like, what is one thing that us as criminal justice professionals could work on or change? So then, like, there is less of people that are the constant routine of going into prison over and over.
What, you mean like repeat offenders?
Yes.
You
Like,
know,
what can we do?
the biggest thing prisons need is more education. Now understand, there's education there. There's a lot of programs there. But when you get there, they're not going to pull you aside, here you have to do this. Now in the feds, they make you get your GED. But I've taught the GED classes. And you got guys in there that are just not going to do it. They don't want, why they don't want to, I don't know. It's free. Get your GED. That's where I got mine my first time. You know, but some of the courses they have, they're not the best. Each facility is different. You know, and I used to tell guys, you know, if you do right, you can get transfers, especially for educational purposes. You know, but you have to do right. You can't just, you know, don't get in no trouble for a year and put in for one. You got to at least program. Take whatever you can. I mean, I took everything. I took the parenting class like 3 times, got 3 certificates. Then I started teaching it. I took OSHA classes. I don't know why, but I did. I took a 10 and a 30. I got everything I could in there, just say, look, I got it. Because it's a good way to do your time. But if you just do nothing, they're not going to give you nothing. But there are programs in there. But education could use a boost, a big boost. Because the education departments, you know, there's not a lot of money in them. You know, you can't expect to go in there and get gritty education. I mean, it's prison. But it could use a boost. You know, a lot of it's just the overcrowding. Because like at Leavenworth, that prison was only housed to hold so many people. They were all single-man cells at one time. And now they're all housing 2 guys. And it's just, there's a waiting list a lot of times for it. It's hard to get it. Most prisons, you have to have a job. You know, no matter what it is. Leavenworth, you don't have to. Because they're just not there. And even the staff who runs whatever crew it is, you know, they don't want 30, 40 guys just standing around doing nothing because there's no work to be done. So that's why a lot of guys like going to Leavenworth, because you don't have to work, you don't have to go to school, you can just do nothing. And then what happens? Nothing. You're in the same boat you were when you went in. So, really education. And just our laws. Our laws need to be stricter. They just do. We are like the softest. You know? Like I said, I can't say it would have detoured me when I was younger, but I bet I probably would have given a lot of extra thought thinking, man, do I want to do 20 to life? Do I want life out the gate? You know, do I want life at all? You know, but I knew how the system was. Our system is just, it's backwards in a lot of ways. And I think we give, in some cases, I think we give the big time to the wrong people and not to people that really deserve it. That's where I would start. And believe me, inside I used to make a lot of enemies like that. But I just used to tell guys, man, look it up, think about it. You know, a lot of them had the same track record I did. Slapping the wrist here, slapping the wrist here, go 5 year here, this, that, what did it do? Nothing. But if it's your first time in, and they hit you with a 10 to 20, they put you in a USP, that's gonna sink in more than just these little stints at a camp or a county jail, I think.
What's your opinion on the possibility that prisoners would get paid minimum wage while they're working in prison?
I think it's ridiculous. I do, I mean, you know, there are high jobs, what you would call a high paying job in prison. Okay, like me in the officer's mess hall, I was what they called a grade 1. I got $185 a month because she had me down as a tutor and a clerk. There's some jobs like Unicore. Unicore, it's either textiles or print shop. There's places that and it's stuff you make either for all of the prisons, or there's some factories that make some of the clothing for fire departments and whatnot. Those are jobs where some guys can make like, I don't know, $200-300 a month. Now in the early 90s, there were some guys making $600-700. Because I remember in Minnesota, they did a lot of stuff. They made these gloves and jackets. They were for the fire departments, things like that. It was pretty big business. Because I remember the clerk made like $600 a month just doing the books. You know, that's an obscene amount of money in there. Obscene. Because, I mean, okay, when you look at a commissary list, there's really nothing on there you need except hygiene. But here's what I used to tell people. I said, you can do an entire sentence without ever going to a commissary. I said, because they're going to feed you 3 times a day, whether you like it or not, they're going to feed you. And if you really have no money, they're going to give you the soap to bathe with and the shampoo. They're going to give you toothpaste. They're going to give you all those things. But you're only going to get all those things depending on what you have on your books. Now, depends what you have sent to you. But you have to be indigent. But they're not just going to sit there and say, well, we're not going to let you shower, you don't need no soap. They're not going to do that to you. But to make that kind of money for what? Unless it's going to go towards, like my case, restitution, or to victims or whatever. But I mean, that's minimum wage, really? I think it's ridiculous. Because you're given everything. I mean, like you make the joke, Christ's sake, you got cable TV in there. I mean, yeah, exactly. So, really, what do you need in there? You don't need nothing. I do, I can make a lot of enemies in there. Because I'm just truthful about it.
Have you considered becoming a motivational speaker for guys who are either still in prison and are getting ready
Yep.
to go out, or that are already out and
That's
still
what we're
lost
doing.
it?
That's what we're doing right now.
Lost in it.
That's why we're videotaping this one. You know, I really want to speak at the prisons. Shelley tried to get me in there, but you know, my situation is kind of unique. A lot of the guys, because they have been in the auditorium listening to speakers, a lot of them are the ones that have only really done a couple years usually. You know, I'm not saying their crime wasn't bad, but you know, it could have been like 4 year bad checks or whatnot. But you know, to get someone like, with my past and my record, you know, and I'm still on parole, you know, it's no wonder, you know, I don't know if they said, oh, hell no, but you know, they probably thought, you know, well, because I probably still know someone in Inglewood, you know, like if I want to go speak at Florence, that probably wouldn't happen because I know I still know a lot of people doing time at Florence. I'm not saying it would never happen, but yeah, that's ultimately what I want to do.
But
Because
you're
of-
doing an amazing job.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming out.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question.
Do you ever work with the Second Chance?
The Second Chance Act, you know, I really don't know a lot about it because it's something I never explored. You know, I was never in there trying to find ways to get out early, you know, or things like that. It's not something I know about it, but it's not something I ever really got involved with?
He's talking about, there's a second chance center.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a Second Chance Act. I'm sorry. No, I don't know anything about it.
Cause they usually try to help guys who come out of prison to get
Right.
them on the right track.
Okay. See, I did that in the halfway house.
Yeah.
They call it a reentry program.
Cause
Like,
there's like, I don't remember the dude who runs it, but he came out of prison and he tries to help other people.
Yeah. I'm all for that stuff. Because I've done a lot of talks, but never like on an invited level. It's just usually the group of guys at the halfway house. One of our counselors started talking one day and said, hey, you want to do our class? I'm like, okay. Because obviously when I talk to them, it's a lot different. You know, that was one of my concerns today. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to probably need to tone it down. You know, I mean, the way I talk to them is a lot different than, you know, how I talk to you, but I talk to them because I get it. You know, I know exactly where they're coming from. So it's just a different language. It's a different breed of people. But this was easy. You know what? I just told my wife, you know, I said I want to go there dropping F-bombs and all that. You know, when I'm with them, it's different. Huh?
Our professor did this morning.
Next time.
Be the first to tell you.
Anything else? Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So you said you're gonna host it, is there any way like you can give it to him so we can share your?
Sure can.
Cool.
Sure
I
can.
wanna share your video on my Facebook, but
Sure can.
I feel like.
And see, the only thing, and this one will be able to post, and, because I had asked my work, because I'm going to work after this. Because where I work, there's just a lot of ethics. And I had asked him, I said, hey, you know, I'm coming to work afterwards, it's okay if I wear this? And of course he said it was, but he said, oh, you gotta post it. And I said, well, that's our plan. They'll have to watch it first. And of course, when they see it, they're gonna say, well, yes, of course. You know, because I'm not out here advertising.
Tarnishing their name.
Exactly. I mean, make no mistake, I wear the shirt proud because I never thought in a million years I'd work for Martin Marietta. And that's a fact. And go ahead.
Sorry, how long have you been working for them?
The 16th of last month was my 1 year. You know, and it took me 3 months to make it up to running the shop over there. Yeah. Because I just set out and I just knew what I wanted. And I got it. But yeah.
So when you're in a position where you can hire other people, would you look at people like yourself?
I would. You know, I've already gotten one gentleman a job, and he was my boss at the time. He's a young kid, but he was my boss when I worked in that temp service. It was him and his father-in-law, which I went to school with his father-in-law back in the day, who looked out for me through the temp service. And when he got laid off, I just got him. In fact, he's going on his month there. Because I'm always trying to, I know every name of anyone that's ever helped me. Because everyone had a part of this. You know, because it was hard for me to get back to what I'm doing. One, you need tools. I had none. You know, we make the joke, my very first job she dropped me off at. You know, my profession, you need a lot of tools. You need a big box, you need a lot of stuff. I walked into my first job with a Home Depot bucket with like $80 worth of tools and a plastic creeper. You know, and I remember she said, you okay? And I said, man, I'm cool. I said, this is where I'm getting back in the game. And that was only just 4 years ago. Now I'm where I'm at today.
I just wanted to tell you, I think you have a great purpose in life, from teaching us stuff and other people that have committed crimes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Keep doing this.
Appreciate it. Proud mama.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions? Going once, going twice. Have a good break. You're gonna miss me for the next 10 days, right?